You, of all people, dare to criticize me, the incoming president of the company. You're too young for that by 100 years. A drink was thrown over my head after those words. I was completely taken aback. I never imagined that I would be doused with beer. What followed, however, was blazing rage. I will never forgive this. I took out my phone and made a call to a specific individual. Everything started then. I'm 35 years old, and my name is Marty. At the moment, I work and reside in Germany. Germany has become my second home, even though I was born and raised in the United States. Speaking other languages fluently would be amazing. I chose to pursue a degree at an institution that specializes in linguistics because I have been captivated by foreign languages since middle school. I used a language exchange app, which was popular at the time, as a means of communication and as a learning tool. I found myself becoming really engrossed in the app, and it was unexpectedly entertaining. "Hello," said Anna, a German resident, to me. Later on, she would marry me. "Hi, nice to meet you." I was instantly drawn to Anna, who was my age and an English student. I questioned whether I was talking to a living doll because she was so stunning. As we conversed, we discovered many things in common and shared similar ideals. "Anna, I love our conversations so much. I would love to talk more." "Really? That brings me such joy. I have the same sentiments." Another important bond between us was that we were both huge MLB fans. We improved our mutual understanding by supporting one another's language learning and occasionally conversing in English. Anna eventually came to America, and I had the opportunity to give her a tour. She was so adorable the first time I saw her in person that I was unable to look at her for the first 5 minutes. Since we didn't have a favorite team, we explored Boston's Fenway Park. However, Anna laughed a lot and had a wide range of interests. "Marty, I've had such a great time at the baseball field. I'm overjoyed. I can't wait to come back." "Do it, please. This time, we can go to all the locations we missed." "I will most certainly return. And the next time, Marty, you must visit Germany. I'll give you a tour. It's a lot of fun." I went to Germany after accepting her offer, and Anna gave me an amazing tour. I became more attracted to her with every encounter. The fact is, Anna, I like you. Would you be my girlfriend? After a moment of surprise, Anna nodded and grinned. "Obviously. I also like you, Marty." We continued to communicate over great distances, and I made the decision to relocate to Germany in order to be with her after I graduated from college. I've been residing in Germany and working at the Bayern Brewery ever since. I married Anna. Together with our daughter Johanna, we now lead a happy life. Okay, let's get started. I sat down at my desk as usual, checked my emails, and started working on the chores for the day. The phone rang at that moment. The chairman's office was the source of the call. The chairman's secretary picked up the receiver and told me that Mr. Dan wanted to see me right now. I rushed to the chairman's office because I felt something was bad. When I entered, Michael Dan, the chairman of Bayern Brewery, was looking at me with a grave expression. "Thank you for coming, Marty. I need to discuss a serious issue. It's about the New York branch in America. Their sales have been plummeting, even during the summer, which is usually the peak season. Compared to last year, the numbers are shockingly low." Mr. Dan furrowed his brow, his expression heavy. I could feel the weight of the situation. "Even in summer, that's very concerning." "Exactly. As you know, America is a critical market for Bayern Brewery, but with these sales figures, we may have to consider pulling out of the region entirely." I gasped for a moment at his words. Bayern Brewery had long held a strong market share in America. For that position to falter would be a significant blow to the company. That's why I'm asking for your help. I need your experience and insight. I want you to go to America, assess the situation on site, identify the root cause of the problem, and propose a solution. Without a second thought, I nodded. This was a critical moment for the company, and a strong sense of responsibility and mission swelled within me. Certainly, Mr. Dan. I'll go to America and conduct a thorough investigation. I'm counting on you, Marty. I have high expectations for your abilities. Please leave as soon as possible. I gave him a firm nod, offered a polite farewell, and left his office. As I walked back to my desk, I began mentally mapping out the steps I'd need to take for this important assignment. When I got home, Anna and Johanna were chatting happily in the living room. "Oh, you're home early today." "Daddy's home." Johanna ran over and hugged me as I greeted her with a warm smile. I took a deep breath, a bit nervous about what I was about to say. "I have to go to America unexpectedly. There's some trouble at one of the branches." Anna looked surprised but quickly smiled gently. "I understand. Don't worry about things here. I'll take care of everything. Just focus on your work and do your best." She wrapped her arms around me reassuringly, and Johanna beamed, patting my head. "Go, Daddy. You've got this." Their warm words filled me with gratitude and determination, and I hugged them both tightly. Johanna and Anna's laughter filled the room, and with their support behind me, I embarked on my journey to America. Returning to America for the first time in years felt nostalgic, but I wasted no time heading to Bayern Brewery's New York branch. The next day, my official purpose there was listed as Mid-Career Trainee Orientation. "Hello, I'm Marty, starting my training here today." When I told the receptionist, she promptly escorted me to the marketing department. Although I was there under the guise of a trainee, my real goal was to thoroughly analyze the branch's operations and identify the underlying issues. Upon arriving at the marketing department, I was introduced to May, the team leader. "I'm May, the leader of the marketing team." "It's nice to meet you," she said. She is a woman in her 30s with a warm smile, her calm demeanor standing out. "Nice to meet you too. I'm Marty. Thank you for having me," I responded. May then said, "Let me introduce you to the team," and led me to the center of the office floor. As she called everyone's attention, the employees gathered around, and I introduced myself. "I'm Marty, and I'll be joining the marketing department for training. It's a pleasure to work with you all." Polite applause followed, but my attention was drawn to one man in particular. He showed blatant disdain for my greeting. He looked me up and down, then grinned a sarcastic smile. "So you're the new mid-career hire?" "I'm Jesse," he said. "Marketing's pretty tough, you know. Think you can handle it? By the way, how old are you?" Taken aback by his rude attitude, I answered calmly, "I'm 35. At that, Jesse burst out laughing. "Seriously? 35 and a mid-career trainee? That's insane. No way you're any good at this." While those around him stiffened at his words, May opened her mouth with a grim expression. "Stop it, Jesse. That's extremely disrespectful to Marty." But instead of backing down, Jesse clicked his tongue and glared at her. "Ha, don't act all high and mighty just because you're the leader." His audacity left me stunned. It was hard to believe someone could behave so brazenly, even in a professional setting. "Are you serious?" I muttered to myself as I watched the situation unfold. Well, it's pretty much confirmed that a 35-year-old newbie is useless. Watch how I do things and learn from me. I joined as a new grad, and I'm really good at this. Jess's tone was dripping with arrogance and self-importance. Even at first glance, it was obvious he was overconfident and convinced of his own superiority. He made no effort to hide his condescending attitude toward me. Deciding to stay calm, I chose not to let my emotions show and responded with composure. "Thank you. I'll be sure to use you as a role model." I smiled politely. Jesse, clearly satisfied with himself, nodded smugly before returning to his work. As I watched him walk away, I began to reflect. Was Jesse a central figure in the marketing department of this branch? If so, his behavior might be a significant factor negatively impacting the company's operations. This might be a more serious problem than I initially thought. I murmured internally, resolving to keep a close eye on him. As I settled into the New York branch, more of the internal dynamics began to reveal themselves. First, it was about May, the leader of the marketing department. May was the backbone of the department. She led meetings with precision, actively engaging team members and drawing out their ideas. Mickey, do you have anything to add to this data? You're always so thorough, and your insights really help. If there's anything else you think we should include, let us know. Yes, Mickey replied. I looked deeper into the trends for the next target demographic. Here's some data I think would be valuable. Team members actively contributed their thoughts, and May was constantly supporting them, creating a collaborative and effective environment. Her leadership and sharp questioning skills left a strong impression on me. On the other hand, Jesse, who claimed to be highly capable, was, "Are you kidding me?" I couldn't help but mutter under my breath as I observed him during a meeting. While serious discussions were underway, Jesse was hiding his phone behind a file, playing a game. He wore a serious expression to mask his actions, but occasionally grinned when something in the game amused him. When bored, he'd whisper jokes to the colleague next to him, stifling laughter. "Who cares about the data? Just wing it, and it'll work out," he said. While the rest of the team engaged in meaningful discussions, Jess's behavior remained immature and disruptive. It wasn't just frustrating. It was giving me an actual headache. Wow, thank you, Marty. Your reports are always so clear and easy to understand. May's bright smile as she reviewed my materials was a welcome change of pace. I totally agree. These are incredibly helpful. The data is accurate, too, she added. The reports I prepared quickly gained a reputation in the marketing department for their clarity and precision. Hearing such positive feedback from May and my colleagues genuinely made me happy. Really? I'm glad to hear that. It's a relief. Soon, my reports became essential for project progress, and more colleagues began requesting my assistance with data collection and analysis. To me, research was the foundation of effective marketing. If the data was flawed, every subsequent action could end up being a waste of effort. That's why I prioritized gathering accurate, reliable data, even if it required significant time and effort. Jesse, however, didn't share that philosophy. Data doesn't matter. Just wing it. It'll work out somehow, he often said with a grin. I suspected his approach would lead to failure eventually. And sure enough, one day, Jesse appeared at my desk. "Hey, old man trainee, make me a report, will you? I'm swamped over here." "I'd love to help, but I'm already juggling a lot right now. If you can give me a bit of time to wrap up my current tasks, I can assist. When's the deadline for this report?" I thought my response struck a balance, but Jesse's face darkened with annoyance, and he raised his voice. "Come on, just get it done already." I said I'm in a rush, didn't I? "Jesse, don't be unreasonable. Marty has his own work to do," May said. But Jesse ignored me completely and shouted, "Just do it already." He slammed a USB onto my desk without a second thought. I couldn't help but let out a sigh, but May, looking genuinely apologetic, approached me. "I'm so sorry, let me return this for you," May said, then tried to pick up the USB, but I stopped her. "It's fine. I'll try to adjust my workload and see if I can make time to handle it," I told her, lowering my eyebrows. I added, "If I do it myself, I can guarantee it will be done properly." May looked surprised at my bluntness, but eventually nodded in agreement. "You're right. Honestly, we've had so many problems with him." I wanted to ask her why Jesse had such a high and mighty attitude, but the dark circles under May's eyes and her evident exhaustion made me hold back. Instead, I reassured her once again and turned my focus to reviewing my tasks. After shuffling my schedule, I made time to create the report Jesse had demanded. "Jesse, here's the report," I said, handing the materials I had prepared to him. He looked dissatisfied with them as he skimmed through them. This isn't good enough. I needed to match my style more, Jesse said, his tone fierce. I felt a pang of frustration. I had put considerable effort into ensuring the report was accurate and thorough, so I couldn't afford to let him make any strange changes. Adjusting the layout was fine, but making other changes might introduce errors. Jesse glared at me, his annoyance bubbling over. I'll just fix the layout, I said, resigning. Got it, I replied, watching him stomp off with the report. I couldn't shake the feeling that something would go wrong. A few days later, we had a crucial meeting with an important client. Let me present this to you, Jesse said confidently as he handed out the materials. However, as the clients began reviewing the report, their expressions darkened. This data is incorrect. This report is completely useless. What? Let me see that. May grabbed the report from Jesse's hands and examined it with me. It's all kinds of, well, almost a mess. I wanted to shout, wasn't it just the layout you were going to change? But held my tongue. This isn't the report I reviewed at all. May's voice was sharp with frustration, and the room grew tense. The clients, furious about the mistakes in such critical data, abruptly stood and left the meeting. Chaos erupted, and the situation spiraled rapidly out of control. Shortly after, May, Jesse, and I were summoned to the president's office. What is going on here? Explain this mess immediately. The president, whom I met for the first time, was Terry Smith. His face was bright red, and he was furious. May began explaining the situation as calmly as she could, but Jesse interrupted, eager to shift the blame. Listen, Dad, it was Marty's fault. He's the one who made the report. I just used it. Dad? I blurted out in shock, unable to contain my reaction. That's right. My dad is Terry Smith, the president of the New York branch, Jesse declared, puffing out his chest. His already inflated ego swelled 100-fold. While I knew the branch president's name was Terry Smith, I never imagined they were father and son. It was such a common last name, after all. With all due respect, Mr. Smith, the materials I prepared were accurate when I completed them. Perhaps your son made some changes. What? No way, Mr. Smith observed the exchange with a cold, detached expression. Do you have a problem with my son? At that moment, I realized there was no saving this situation. The catastrophic decline in sales at the New York branch suddenly made perfect sense. Jesse, now emboldened by his father's support, sneered at me. See? Even my dad says so. You better start doing your job properly. I could only stare at Jesse, incredulous. Mr. Smith began defending his son more fervently. My Jesse is an elite employee. Couldn't you have covered for a small mistake like this? The two of them, father and son, exuded unprofessionalism and arrogance, reinforcing the dysfunction that plagued the branch. Before Mr. Smith could continue, May interrupted sharply, her voice trembling with frustration. I can't stay silent any longer. Time and again, you've ignored our well-prepared proposals and instead put your faith in Jesse's half-baked ideas. Mr. Smith looked stunned, and Jesse was momentarily speechless. May pressed on. And look where it's gotten us. Sales have plummeted. We've worked tirelessly to find solutions, only for you to dismiss them. Instead, you've enabled Jesse to boss everyone around, hiding behind the excuse that he's the president's son. Enough is enough. Her voice echoed through the room, trembling with anger and exhaustion. I just want to do my job, but I can't keep cleaning up your son's messes. I've reached my limit. I quit. Seeing May start to cry, I placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. She must have really been at her limit, crying so hard that her body was shaking. It's okay, May. Everyone here knows how hard you've worked. We've all seen it and appreciate it. She wiped her tears and nodded slightly, but her sorrow was still evident. Taking a deep breath, I turned to face Mr. Smith and Jesse. Mr. Smith, It's time to address the real issue here. Jesse's behavior is not only unprofessional, but outright destructive to this branch and its employees. If this continues, it won't just be this branch. It could jeopardize the entire company. Mr. Smith's face turned red with anger as he snapped back. Are you saying my son is incompetent? Jesse is the heir to this branch. He's going to succeed me. How dare you question that? Jesse, riding the wave of his father's indignation, smirked and added, You, of all people, criticizing the next president? You're 100 years too early. With a flourish, Jesse grabbed a promotional beer can from the table, popped it open, and dumped its contents over my head. Without hesitation, the cold beer trickled down my hair and face as May let out a horrified gasp. How's that? This is how I handle things. Jesse laughed loudly, revving in his childish display. I stood silently, making no move to wipe the beer away, my gaze locked coldly on Jesse and Mr. Smith. Take responsibility for your words, I uttered in a low voice. My words echoed, and the air in the room became even more tense. May rushed out of the room. She soon returned, and in her hand was a towel she had brought from somewhere. Marty, are you all right? That would be a shock to see something like this in front of her. There were tears in her eyes. Again, I gave her a reassuring smile and took the towel, wiping my hair and face. Thank you, May, and for the record, you're not the one who needs to quit. If anyone's leaving, it'll be these two. With the three of them dumbfounded, I took my phone out of my pocket and checked the time difference. Then silently, I operated the app and began making video calls. Mr. Smith sneered, watching me make the call. What are you trying to do? Call for help? It's pointless. Jesse laughed along, mimicking his father's disdain. Only useless people quit. We're not going anywhere. You think the next president of this branch is going down here? Not a chance. The two of them continued in their arrogance, completely oblivious to the gravity of the situation. May, however, wasn't hiding her exhaustion anymore. She looked completely worn out. I glanced briefly at them, then focused on the phone as the call connected. The face of Mr. Dan, the chairman of the company in Germany, appeared on the screen. Realizing I was still damp from the beer, I straightened my posture to maintain some professionalism. Mr. Dan, I apologize for disturbing you at this late hour. However, I need to report a serious issue here at the New York branch. Instantly, Mr. Smith and Jesse's laughter stopped. I adjusted the camera so that everyone in the room was visible on the call. As soon as Mr. Smith and Jesse recognized Mr. Dan on the screen, their expressions changed to ones of panic. A serious issue. Please explain, Mr. Dan urged. I succinctly outlined the events, from Jesse's unprofessional behavior to Mr. Smith's blatant favoritism, and detailed how these actions were contributing to the branch's poor performance. This is deeply troubling, Mr. Smith. I'll need an explanation from you. His horrifyingly cold gaze shot through Mr. Smith and also through Jesse next to him. Mr. Smith's face went pale as he stammered. Well, you see, my son is still young, and everyone makes mistakes. Jesse tried to interject, but I continued firmly. Mr. Dan, I must recommend that we proceed with shutting down the New York branch. I calmly spoke to Mr. Dan. At this point, it is unsustainable and poses a risk to the company as a whole. May then fearfully raised one hand and opened her mouth. Excuse me, Mr. Dan, may I say something? I know it might not be my place, but... Oh, of course. Don't be so afraid. Mr. Dan won't mind. I nodded to May, who looked worried, and Mr. Dan nodded with a kind expression. Please tell us your story. I want to hear, he encouraged. May nodded, though tears glistened in her eyes as she began. I'm May, the marketing team leader. We've all been working so hard, but the behavior of these two has made it unbearable. Not just for me, but for everyone in the office. May poured out her heart. Mr. Dan, also had a serious expression on his face. "Mr. Dan, we want to work in a supportive environment. My team is full of incredibly talented people who care about this company. They love the work, but they've been crushed by all this. We could have done so much more if our strategies had been implemented properly. Instead, there were people crying because their efforts were wasted." Mr. Dan's expression softened as he listened, nodding solemnly. "Thank you, May. You've done exceptionally well under such circumstances, and I deeply appreciate your dedication." But Mr. Dan was silent for a few moments, then nodded. "The decision is clear. The New York branch will be shut down. Mr. Smith, you and Jesse are terminated effective immediately." Mr. Smith and Jesse's faces turned ghostly pale, their confidence crumbling as they stammered in protest. "Wait, this is too sudden. My son is still learning. He's not ready to be let go. Yeah, my dad promised I'd be the next president. You can't just take that away." I calmly listened to the out-of-touch excuses and evasions of responsibility coming from both of them. "It's too late. You have destroyed our business. And what are you going to do about it?" No, it's a misunderstanding. We did our best. We just did it a little wrong. I am so sorry." Jesse also expressed the same apology, but there was no sincerity in his words. They were just superficial, flimsy words. Jesse snatched my phone and began to plead with Mr. Dan, showing himself on the screen. "I'm sorry, but you can't fire the next president. This is unfair. You can't do this to me." Jesse became more and more agitated, glaring at me and raising his voice. "Certainly, it is unthinkable in a normal company to call the chairman directly and make a report. You, a mid-career hire. How could someone like you possibly connect with Mr. Dan and get us fired? This is ridiculous. Who do you think you are?" At that moment, Mr. Dan let out a long, heavy sigh, one that carried an unmistakable tone of exasperation. "Ignorance truly is a dangerous thing. You clearly don't understand the reality of the situation. He's far more than just a mid-career hire." I calmly retrieved my phone from Jesse and locked eyes with both him and Mr. Smith. "Let me clarify. Marty is the CEO of Bayern Brewery's headquarters in Germany. He has full authority to terminate your employment and recommend the closure of the New York branch. And here you are, exposing your ignorance with such confidence. It's utterly shameful." The unexpected words already had the three of them standing on sticks. My eyes are wide open, and she is holding her mouth. Is this real? The words she muttered were probably speaking on behalf of the three people who were present. Hearing these words, Mr. Smith and his son were stunned for a while. But then, they must have understood the meaning. Their faces turned pale, and they were shaking. As the words reached his ears, Jesse fell at his knees, and Mr. Smith was also stunned. Mr. Dan began to talk about me through the screen. "Marty has been my right-hand man for years. His work in Germany has been exemplary, consistently exceeding expectations. There isn't a single person at headquarters who doubts his ability or dedication." Jesse looked at me, his disbelief palpable. It was clear that he had never considered the possibility that the mid-career hire he had mocked could be someone so far above him. Mr. Dan added, "And one more thing. He is also my son." The room erupted in a collective gasp. Jesse and Mr. Smith were rendered speechless, and May's mouth fell open in disbelief. Everyone's reaction was as if they didn't understand the reality of the situation. "Your son. That's correct. Marty is my son-in-law. He fell in love with my daughter, moved to Germany, and built his career from the ground up. I've never coddled him, especially in business. His accomplishments are the result of his own talent, determination, and hard work." I was so touched by Mr. Dan's words, or rather, my father-in-law's words, that I was filled with gratitude. My father-in-law was indeed strict, but I knew properly that he was thinking of me, and he is a truly loving person. I'm not usually one to show my emotions, but the back of my nose was aching. And you, Mr. Smith, you've spoiled your son and failed to teach him the responsibilities of leadership. If you wanted him to succeed, you should have demanded accountability and results instead of shielding him from the consequences of his actions. Mr. Smith's face turned red, and he tried to argue, but he was overwhelmed by Mr. Dan's sharp eyes and closed his mouth. Marty, you've done an exceptional job. Your efforts have not only upheld the values of this company, but have also brought immense pride to our family. You are an irreplaceable asset to both. A genuine smile spread across my face. Then, with gratitude, I said a few words over the phone. Thank you, Dad. My father-in-law also smiled and nodded. I'll be waiting for you in Germany. I love you, son. I hung up the phone, sincerely satisfied. Thus, I left the president's office quietly with May, leaving Mr. Smith and Jesse sitting there. Soon after that, Mr. Smith and Jesse were fired. It was a natural result after all they had done. When the decision was made to withdraw from the New York branch and the president's office was being cleaned out, May and several employees entered the president's office with great energy. Wait, please give us another chance. Her eyes were serious, and the employees around her looked determined. What do you mean? We'll rebuild this branch. Give us 2 years. Just 2 years, and I promise we'll turn things around. I was surprised, but at the same time, struck by the strength of her will. Rather than abandoning the New York branch, they would rebuild it. These people can do it. That's what I thought. After deciding to give the New York branch a chance at recovery, I immediately called my father-in-law to discuss the matter. Having already recommended the branch's closure and knowing Mr. Dan's firm stance, I was nervous about bringing it up. All right, let's give it a shot, he said unexpectedly, his tone calm and decisive. First, submit a thorough plan. The employees who endured such tyranny are bound to unleash their potential now that those two are gone. There was a trace of amusement in his voice, which made me smile a little. After ending the call, I turned to May and her team. All right, you've got 2 years. Submit a detailed recovery plan first and stay in close communication with me throughout. Let's make this work. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. After that, May and I worked hard together to rebuild the New York branch. We had online meetings in Germany and New York and actively held meetings. We revamped the marketing approach, strengthened team dynamics, and crafted meticulous plans for growth. I frequently traveled to New York to provide on-the-ground support while May demonstrated incredible leadership, rallying her team with unmatched determination. We did it. We actually did it. 2 years later, the New York branch achieved a remarkable turnaround, returning to profitability. May and I were pleased with the results together, and the branch office was successfully rebuilt. I'm really glad I believed in you guys. Thank you for believing in us too. At that time, everyone in the room was crying, including me, of course. Thus, the German headquarters and the New York branch formed an even stronger bond, and they are now moving forward together into the future. When I reported to my father-in-law that the branch, which had been in such a depressed state, had successfully turned profitable, he was very pleased. Oh, I see. That's really good to hear. The New York branch is back on its feet thanks to May and the rest of the team. My father-in-law smiled and took a sip of his beer. Don't sell yourself short. The results came because you believed in them. That's what makes you my son. Business, like life, is built on trust. Raising my beer, I nodded, filled with gratitude. We couldn't have succeeded without your support, Dad. Thank you. I firmly expressed my gratitude with all the strength I had in my handshake. He used his other hand to gently pat my head. We're family. We support each other no matter what, isn't that right? And always will be, he said with a playful wink. I nodded deeply and was grateful to have met someone I could respect as a father and a human being. With Anna, Johanna, and my father-in-law, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together as a family. Absolutely. We raised our glasses again, toasting to an even brighter future ahead. It's been so long. I can't control myself. That's what Nancy whispered in my ear. Her soft voice made my pulse quicken, and I felt heat spreading through my body. I never imagined something like this would happen at my workplace. My name is Bob Harrison. I'm a 32-year-old bachelor working at a major electronics manufacturer. It's a big corporation, and people admired me. But recently, I've been demoted. Bob, give your best at your new place. You're better off working in the country than slaving away at headquarters, the director said to me with a smirk. He was the one who sent me off to this subsidiary, often referred to as exile. He's known for his oppressive attitude towards employees he dislikes, and recently, I was his main target. He criticized everything I did and continually put me down. For example, when I asked about specific corrections on documents he shredded without reading, he just told me to figure it out myself. Catering to his reckless whims was truly exhausting. The director supposedly married the niece of the CEO for his career advancement, creating an unquestioning atmosphere in the company. Despite his poor reputation for womanizing and his harsh treatment of subordinates, I had a strong sense of loyalty to the company. I thought overcoming adversity would help me grow as a person. No matter what the director did, I was determined not to give in. When my demotion was decided, the director seemed extremely pleased. As someone who worked at headquarters, this transfer was a shock, but I steeled myself to face the challenge. I couldn't let my mother down, who was watching over me from heaven. I still remember her pale face in the hospital bed, trying to cheer me up. "I will always be watching over you from heaven," she said. I tear up remembering her gentle smile. My mother passed away around the time I went to college. My father was the worst when I was a child, and my mother protected me from his abuse. She raised me on her own, always smiling and showering me with love despite being busy with work and housework. I could never thank her enough. If I were to complain now, my mother would be sad. So, with determination, I set off for my new post. The place I was transferred to was a peaceful countryside. The environment was comfortable, and the folks at my new position were kind-hearted. I enjoyed my work. Despite it being a less prestigious role, I didn't slack off. Instead, I did my absolute best. I believed that if I kept up the hard work, it wouldn't be a dream to get a promotion. Indeed, a year after being shifted to this new position, I had made significant accomplishments in my work and began receiving recognition. This fact made me relieved. Just when I breathed a sigh of relief, I received an interesting proposition from a colleague named Todd. "Hey Bob, how about we go to the party for singles?" "A party?" "Yeah, you don't seem to have a girlfriend either, so it's a chance to meet someone." As Bob pointed out, I didn't have a girlfriend at the moment. It's a bit embarrassing to admit, but I had no experience with dating in my life. When I was at the head office, I had many opportunities to be invited to social gatherings, but I was always busy with the manager's rigorous workload and chased by stress. So, I couldn't find the mood for romance. But now, with some breathing room, it seemed like the perfect timing to seek new connections. I'm almost 33, and I'd like to get married at some point. With that in mind, I decided to participate in the party. But it didn't go as smoothly as I expected. The party was held at a luxury hotel, and many more participants gathered than I anticipated. I couldn't communicate well with the women and ended up feeling isolated. This wouldn't happen in a business context, but casual chit-chat seemed difficult for me, who had been submerged in work. In contrast to me, Todd, with his social and lively character, was making vibrant conversations with many women. Neither Todd nor I were particularly handsome, but despite this, the difference in our situations left me feeling disappointed. I thought the women at the party probably saw me as a boring guy. When I was feeling down, I suddenly heard a voice. "Excuse me, may I talk to you?" When I lifted my gaze, I was astonished. Standing in front of me was a woman of unbelievable beauty. I was so captivated by her, who looked as if she could have stepped right out of a TV show, that I couldn't even look away. "Of course, I've been looking for someone to talk to since I came to the party. You were alone too, so I thought I'd come and talk," she said with a gracious smile. "I guess everyone's too intimidated to approach because you're so beautiful." "Oh, you're a smooth talker." "Not at all. It's just that I've never had a proper conversation with a woman other than my mother, and so here I am in this situation." "Oh, you have a good relationship with your mother. That's wonderful." "Yes, she passed away when I was in high school, but she was truly a good mother." "Oh, I'm sorry." When I mentioned that my mother had passed away, she looked genuinely sorry. But of course, it wasn't her fault. It was me who brought up my mother all of a sudden. But actually, I lost my mother when I was young too. "Really?" Whether it was a blessing in disguise or not, we started to talk about our mothers. At first, I was frustrated with myself for not being able to converse smoothly, but as time passed, I found myself chatting naturally with her. She was not only beautiful, but also had a very friendly personality. Before I knew it, I was not only fascinated by her appearance, but also by her dazzling smile and gentle manner. Oh, what a joy it would be to have a girlfriend just like her. Just as I was thinking this, the host of the party gave instructions to the participants through a microphone. "All right, everyone, we will now be ending the talking time. If you're interested in someone, please write down their badge number on the sheet we distributed at the beginning." I nodded at her and left to join Bob. Her badge had the number 28 on it. There's no way I would match with her, but I wrote down 28 and handed the sheet to the party organizer. I had a great time with such an attractive woman. That was enough for me. With those thoughts, I was looking up at the stage of the party when the host started to announce the results. At the end of the party, we will introduce the men and women who had successfully paired up. Now let's start with male number 2 and female number 6. Congratulations on becoming a couple. Each time the host said this, a man and a woman ascended to the stage and were introduced. Before I knew it, the venue had transformed into a festive mood filled with a peculiar heat. Todd, too, had successfully paired up and ascended the stage. Todd's partner was a slender, adorable woman, and the spectators were all worked up. When the spectators called for a kiss, Todd, going along with the flow, kissed the back of his partner's hand like a prince, eliciting laughter from the audience. Before I knew it, I was carried away by the atmosphere, watching the proceedings and laughing. However, upon hearing the host's announcement, my mind went blank. Next we have male number 19 and female number 28. Please come up to the stage. I looked at my own badge, and, indeed, my number was 19. "Hey Bob, you're being called," urged Todd. I finally headed towards the stage. There, the woman from before was already waiting for me. I never dreamed that she and I would be paired. What a beauty she is! The lucky number 19 man must be over the moon when the host said this. The audience chimed in with comments like, "Hey, handsome." It was one thing to be an observer, but being the center of attention was unbearably embarrassing. It seemed like she felt the same, her face turning a deep red. But then the audience made a further demand of us, just like they had with Todd and Lear. They called for a kiss. I was petrified and didn't know how to respond, but I couldn't just stand there on stage forever. As I was struggling, the woman next to me gave a quick peck on my cheek. In that moment, my mind went blank again as I was surrounded by cheering. I never imagined I would kiss a woman in such a way. Finally, we were allowed to step down from the stage, and she and I looked at each other. "I never imagined that I'd be paired with you in my wildest dreams." "Me neither, but let's drop the formalities now that we're a couple." "Okay, can I ask your name?" "I'm Nancy Miller." "Nice to meet you." Saying so, Nancy extended her hand like a lily. I touched it, feeling my heart pounding. I'm Bob Harrison. Nice to meet you. After ending the party like that, Nancy and I decided to chat for a bit in the hotel lounge. We still knew little about each other. Wow, what a night. Who knew a matchmaking party would get everyone so fired up? I was surprised too. And while it was only for about an hour, Nancy and I talked more about each other. Nancy was 30, and she had been in another country until last year, but she preferred being in Japan. When I told her where I work, Nancy looked surprised. Oh, you work at that electronics manufacturer? Yeah. Why? Something wrong? No, it's just a big company. I felt a little strange about Nancy's reaction, but we exchanged contact details and parted ways. We agreed to go out for a meal another time. We were both working adults, so coordinating our schedules would be a bit of a hassle. But little did I know, an unexpected development was waiting for me. A week after meeting Nancy, a new manager was assigned to our division and was introduced. During the morning meeting, I was nervous about meeting the new boss, but when I saw who it was, I was at a loss for words. The one who was there was me, in a relationship with a woman named Nancy Miller. It's Miss Nancy Miller who has been promoted to the position of section chief. Until last year, she was abroad gaining experience, they announced. I'm Nancy Miller. Nice to meet all of you, she exclaimed. In stark contrast to my shock, Nancy maintained her poker face as she greeted everyone. However, I did not miss her gaze towards me and the silent, later message she sent through eye contact. Then Nancy and I gathered in the break room. Why are you here? I asked. I'm sorry. I really wanted to tell you, but I had to keep it a secret due to confidentiality. She replied with an apologetic expression. As for me, I had no intention of blaming her. I was just taken aback by this surprising coincidence. However, Nancy cast a worried look my way. Do you mind having your girlfriend as your boss? She asked. No, not at all. I like you, Nancy. I stuttered upon hearing this. Her face lit up with happiness. Me too. I really like you, Bob. I get so nervous and blush whenever I'm around you, she admitted. Indeed, her face was crimson red. It's been a long time since I felt this way. My body isn't listening to me, she confessed, whispering in my ear. Her whisper sent my heart racing and my body grew hot. I could not have imagined that such a turn of events would happen in the office. But honestly, I didn't mind that Nancy was my boss. She was a very talented individual. Upon our reunion at the office, we confirmed our feelings for each other and officially started dating. We didn't make our relationship public, but I was able to work happily with her. I felt like I might have a special connection with Nancy. Such happy days passed, but a new incident occurred 1 month after we started dating. Surprisingly, the director who had transferred me came to see me on the name of a routine inspection. Looking at the director with a meaningful expression, I had a bad feeling. Long time, no see, Bob, he said. Hello, I responded. I'm sure you're finding this new place quite comfortable. I came today to make sure you can continue working here. He added, Pardon? As I widened my eyes in surprise. The director, laughingly, continued. Well, there are talks of bringing you back to headquarters, but you prefer it here, don't you? So, I came to ask the director to let you stay. In other words, the director was there to prevent my return to headquarters. I trembled at the director's deviousness. Director, you? No, quite the opposite. If anything, you should be grateful. That's something I'll discuss with my father. Suddenly, Nancy appeared. On seeing her, the director's face turned pale. Nancy, why are you here? He stammered. Didn't you know I'm here to learn on my father's orders? She responded. What? What do you mean by that? I asked. Nancy's father, Bob. What are you saying? The director demanded. Nancy is the president's daughter. Be respectful. At that moment, everything clicked into place in my mind. The president's last name was Miller, too. No matter how much the director was a relative of the president, he would never dare to disrespect Nancy, the president's daughter. There are also other unpleasant rumors about you. I plan to report everything to my father. Just you wait. No, wait. With that, the director collapsed on the spot. It seemed that the fact that Nancy was the president's daughter was only known to a few executives. Afterwards, thanks to Nancy reporting everything to the president, the director's reputation took a nosedive, and he ultimately left the company. Apparently, his wife also took this opportunity to investigate the director's personal life, confronting him with numerous proofs of infidelity. Having betrayed his wife as well, the director apparently had no choice but to leave the company. The director is now said to be living alone, chased by child support payments for his children. What goes around comes around. I was surprised to find out that Nancy was the president's daughter, but of course, my feelings for her haven't changed. Do you mind that I'm the president's daughter? Are you sure I'm good enough? She asked me. When I asked her that, she gave me a kiss on my cheek. So, a year after we met, we both received recognition for our achievements and were assigned to work at the headquarters, continuing our relationship while working. Another year later, when things had settled down, we got married. I was worried whether the president would accept me, but he readily gave his approval. About this matter, Nancy said, I think my father saw a lot of himself in you, Bob. What do you mean? I asked. Like you, my father has been working hard to grow the company despite the loss of my beloved mother. You remind him of himself, and I fell in love with that side of you. Nancy, even when times are tough, as long as you don't give up and keep looking forward. Heaven never helps the men who will not act. I looked up at the sky and once again said thank you to my mother for bringing such a good match into my life. We decided to give everyone a trip to a spa resort instead. I take it you'll pay the cancellation fee. I was told that over the phone by a man I went to school with, Mark. As I heard what he had to say, I thought I knew. This is how Mark has always been. Since the beginning, he has been playing pranks on me that are really aggravating. However, I can now finally exact revenge on him because someone told me the truth. My old classmate, Megan, went out of her way to visit and tell me everything, and for that I am immensely thankful. That's why I dropped a bombshell on Mark right away. There's no reservation. What? Really? The voices of the other persons listening on Mark's phone were startled a second later. Mark and his group were clueless at the time. They were unaware of the repercussions of their last-minute cancellation, and when they stormed inside the restaurant later, they had no idea what was in store for them. Matthew Carter is my name. I work as a normal employee at a food firm, and I'm 40 years old. I was raised in a quiet town with a natural and healthy environment. I have always led a stable and unremarkable existence. I've never really experienced the highs and lows that others claim life is full of. I never had any significant setbacks because I was good at studies and sports. As a result, my life has been somewhat uneventful. I was frequently jealous of those around me since I was leading such a life. Everything you do, Matthew, is excellent. You have such talent. You're capable of managing things with minimal effort. To be honest, though, I've never valued that sentiment. People who aim high, fail, and learn from their mistakes, in my opinion, are more radiant. I believe that my life will always be boring and uninteresting. However, I came to the realization that I was a huge fish in a small pond one day. When I assisted an old neighbor, I came to that realization. Although he raises cattle and grows crops on his livestock farm, he frequently lacks the necessary staff. As a result, neighbors and idle youth frequently provide a hand. Thank you, Matthew, for your assistance. Take this, please. As a thank you, I've packed you some beef from our farm. He gave me a large box of meat as payment one day after I helped him. When I asked my parents, who own a barbecue restaurant, to prepare beef, it turned out to be really wonderful, even though I wasn't a big fan of meat. That was a pivotal event in my life. There are many delectable local specialties in my hometown, particularly the pork. I wanted to spread the word about this amazing meat as widely as I could when I grew up. I therefore relocated to New York City as an adult, where I worked for a food firm and researched strategies for promoting the unique goods from my region. It was late morning, almost noon. While working in the accounting department, I got up from my desk to head to the restroom. Even as I mentally juggled calculations, I noticed some employees from another department having a serious conversation in the hallway. They seemed troubled about something. Looks like there's going to be a party soon, but they're short on beef for the menu. Oh, the annual anniversary event. Since we're in the food business, they probably want the dishes to be top-notch. Exactly. The usual supplier that provided high-quality meat went out of business. Apparently, they were frustrated about not being able to get the necessary ingredients. Since my company is relatively small, even someone like me overhears this kind of news quickly. That closeness also makes it easy to approach coworkers in other departments. I thought about my hometown and decided to speak up. Hey, if you'd like, I can introduce you to some livestock farms and butcher shops from my hometown. I know a few, so I might be able to help. The employees I spoke to lit up with joy. Is that true? That would be a huge help. It's been tough trying to find a new supplier. They seemed to be more troubled than I had imagined, and they shook my hand enthusiastically. Even for a small company's party, it was a founding anniversary, so it mattered for the company's reputation. They must have wanted to prepare as well as they could. Seeing their brighter expressions made me happy too. All right, I'll quickly share the contact info now. Do you have something to write it down with? After giving them a few phone numbers and email addresses, I went to the restroom and then returned to my work. As soon as I finished the rest of my tasks, it was time for a break. I checked my phone and was surprised to find several emails from people back home. Wow, they were fast. They've already contacted this many people. Muttering to myself, I scanned through the emails and noticed one from a familiar shop. So they even reached out to that butcher shop? I gave them the contact info just in case, but I hope nothing goes wrong. The email that caught my attention was from Mark, a former classmate of mine. We had known each other during middle and high school, but he had a pretty annoying personality. For some reason, he always seemed to have it out for me, constantly bothering me. He never went too far since he's a bit of a coward, so I didn't let it bother me. But others might not feel the same way. Thinking about Mark targeting my company made me uneasy. Mark, infamous as a troublemaker in our small town, better not cause problems for my coworkers. A few days later, the long-prepared company anniversary party was held. Unlike something a big corporation might do, we reserved a modest hotel. It's a small place, but fairly well known. Many people enjoyed the food prepared by our company. Every year, our CEO would encourage participation, saying, "The company anniversary party is the face of our business, so I want as many of you as possible to join. I'm sure it'll be a great time." For that reason, the party was held in the hotel's banquet hall. But I ended up running into an old classmate there. When I saw his familiar face, I couldn't help but frown. Not wanting to get involved, I tried to look away and make myself scarce. But he noticed me. "Hey, you work for this company. What a coincidence." Ignoring him wasn't an option once he spoke to me. Reluctantly, I responded to Mark. "Yeah, I work in accounting." "You still have the same dull face, huh? Accounting suits you, such a boring and gloomy job." Mark's words weren't just insulting to me, but also belittled my coworkers, which made me angry. Seeing him here made it clear where the party's meat had come from. The only consolation was that despite Mark's bad personality, the meat quality was good. The butcher shop back home was rumored to have poor customer service, but the quality of the products themselves was reliable. Because of that, I could vouch for the quality of the meat he provided. Thinking about this, I glanced at Mark's hands and saw a large plate piled high with food. It seemed he had grabbed everything from the nearby table. Your food's not bad, considering how small your operation is. He was eating messily, dropping bits of food onto the floor. Annoyed, I decided to say something. Your manners are terrible. You're not a kid anymore, so stop making such a mess. What are you, my mom? Yeah, I get it. Even though I scolded him, he brushed it off. Sighing internally, I walked away from him. If I stayed any longer, I'd lose the motivation to enjoy the party. But Mark started hitting on female employees and making unreasonable demands to the staff replenishing the food. Finally, I decided enough was enough and made the call to kick him out. Hey, stop bothering everyone else. You're leaving the venue. What are you talking about? Hey, don't pull me. I grabbed his arm and forced him out of the venue. Mark, dragged out of the banquet hall against his will, naturally gave me a resentful glare, but this was non-negotiable. I appreciate that you took the last-minute deal, but you're still technically an outsider. There's no next deal, is there? Yeah, but what's the big deal about that? Nobody from your company said anything. Mark didn't seem to realize that he had made others uncomfortable. They didn't speak up because they felt indebted. Either way, don't act out anymore. You're leaving now. Got it? He looked clearly dissatisfied, but I wasn't going to back down on this. Just as I was about to press him further, he seemed to remember something. Oh yeah, about the class reunion. I've got something to tell you. Hearing this, I mentally pulled up my schedule. Every year around this time, there was always a class reunion. But this year, the usual cafe where we held it was temporarily closed, and I was wondering what would happen. Wasn't the old man who runs that cafe unable to work because of his back pain? Exactly. That's why we're in a pinch. So, your family runs a barbecue restaurant, right? Set it up for us. Not wanting to trouble my company further and feeling indebted for Mark's help with the party, I decided to accept his request to quickly get him to leave. All right, I'll let my parents know. Thanks. Friends are the best, aren't they? Mark suddenly brightened up and started walking home. His cheerful stride was a stark contrast to the dissatisfaction he showed earlier. Relieved that one hassle was taken care of, I let out a sigh. Little did I know that this conversation would lead to another problem later on. A few weeks later, on the morning of the day Mark had made the reservation for the class reunion, I was driving back to my family's home in the countryside. Since it was just after sunrise, it was still too early for the reunion, but I headed to the barbecue restaurant. To be honest, our place isn't very busy. We run it more for the community and as a hobby than for profit. Because of that, it's rare to get large group reservations, so I knew they'd need my help. That's why I left the city in the middle of the night and drove for hours in my car. When I arrived at the restaurant, as expected, my parents were busy. Mom, Dad, I'm here to help. All right, thanks. There's an apron over there, so get changed. Both in their 60s, my parents responded with their usual curt remarks, even though it had been a while since we had seen each other. They've always been like this, so I didn't think much of it. I kept the greeting short and headed into the kitchen. After putting on the apron, I got straight to work. As I expected, preparing meat for 30 classmates was no easy task. Barbecue restaurants might seem simple, but there's actually a lot to do. Plating the meat, preparing sauces, ensuring hygiene and safety, and keeping all the tools in order. Rushing to get everything ready in time, I barely noticed the hours pass, and soon it was time for the reunion. We'll take care of the rest, so go wait in the dining area, my mom instructed. Following her directions, I changed out of my apron and moved to the front of the restaurant to wait for my classmates. But no matter how long I waited, no one showed up. Feeling a bad premonition, I decided to try contacting Mark on my phone, but for some reason, I couldn't get through to him at all today. Just as I was growing suspicious, a woman arrived at the restaurant. It was my classmate, Megan Anderson. It's been a while, Matthew. Yeah, it has. Now that I think about it, you didn't come last year, did you? She was my classmate in both middle and high school. I remember hearing that she worked for a travel agency overseas. Since she couldn't attend the reunion last year due to work, it must have been 2 years since we last met. How's your work? I asked. I'm good. I just wrapped up a significant project and returned to America with my senior coworkers. That's good to hear. I didn't have too many memories of spending time with her. The only thing that immediately came to mind was working together on the Student Council Safety Committee. She was someone with a strong sense of justice, keeping track of suspicious activity reports and notifying teachers if anything seemed off. For some reason, though, she didn't look well. Worried she might not be feeling good, I asked, Megan, what's wrong? If you're not feeling well, you didn't have to push yourself to come. I'm fine, but more importantly, I got an email saying that Mark and the others are heading to a hotel. Did you know about this? What? The unexpected news left me dumbfounded. Apparently, they were on a train headed to a spa resort hotel. The email said the reunion was being held there. What the heck? Hearing this shocking news from Megan, I was completely confused. When I went back into the restaurant to tell my parents, I found them looking distressed. With a bad feeling in my gut, I spoke up. Did Mark and the others cancel at the last minute? You guessed it. We just got a call about it. Even if it's a cancellation, we've already prepared everything. What are we supposed to do? Hearing what they said, I held my head in frustration. I couldn't believe Mark could be so inconsiderate. What should we do with the barbecue sets we had prepared for 30 people? I never thought Mark was a great guy, but as a business owner himself, he should understand how much damage a last-minute cancellation causes. I can't believe they'd do something so inconsiderate. I'm sorry I didn't catch on sooner. As I muttered in anger, Megan, who had followed me into the restaurant, apologized. She had no way of knowing about Mark's scheme, so it wasn't her fault. In fact, she had come to inform us, so I didn't feel even a trace of blame toward her. No. Megan, this isn't something you need to apologize for. You went out of your way to come here, right? Yes. I tried calling, but I couldn't get through. Now that she mentioned it, I realized I hadn't been checking my phone because I was so focused on helping out. When I took it out of my pocket to check, I saw several missed calls logged. Every single one of them was from Megan. Sorry, I was too focused on helping in the kitchen to notice. It's fine, don't worry about it. By the way, if it's okay, would it be all right to bring my coworkers here? Shaking her head at my apology, Megan glanced at the meat in the kitchen and continued. Some of the people I work with are nearby. They're big eaters, so I think they could handle enough for 30 people. Oh, and of course, we'll pay for everything we eat. That would be a big help, but are you sure? Her suggestion was like a lifeline, but I worried it might burden her. Then she said something I wasn't expecting. It's no problem. I've always wanted to repay you, Matthew. I had no idea what she meant, so I scratched my head, thinking, did I do something? But nothing came to mind. Noticing my confusion, Megan chuckled and began to explain in detail. Didn't we work together on the committee when we were students? Oh, you mean the Student Council Safety Committee? Her words brought back nostalgic memories of my school days. As I reflected, one specific memory stood out in my mind. It took a while, but I figured she might be referring to that event. Remember the time when a middle-aged man was walking around the school with an axe, and we were unsure what to do? Oh yeah, that was terrifying. When I first saw him, I couldn't believe my eyes. Worried that something serious might happen, I asked Megan to go fetch a teacher. But Mark and a few other boys ran into the suspicious man on their way home and started messing with him. I don't know what they said, but they ended up making the man angry, and it turned into a dangerous situation. That's when Megan jumped in between them. I've never felt as scared as I did at that moment, but I was so relieved when you stopped that man from swinging his axe in front of me. Matthew, it was incredibly challenging to calm the furious man down until the teacher and police arrived. Thankfully, it turned out that he was on his way to do farm work. But the thought of what could have happened if he had been a bad person still sends chills down my spine. I've always wanted to repay you for what you did back then, so this is a good opportunity. She finished her story with a smile. I couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. Now that I think about it, she's always been someone who values gratitude and loyalty. Well, I'll take you up on that then. Feeling a little shy, I looked away as I responded. After that, Megan gave me a few phone numbers, which I used to call her coworkers. My parents and I divided the work, calling everyone to explain the situation and taking new reservations. Thanks to her suggestion, we avoided any losses. But what should we do about Mark and his group? Apparently, while we were handling everything, Megan had called the hotel to check on their reservations. She shared what she found out. I just confirmed that Mark's group didn't have their reservation accepted by the hotel. Looking happy, Megan went on to explain the situation. It seems they're infamous for making reservations and canceling at the last minute. The staff must have found them suspicious and decided not to proceed with their booking. I see. That's a relief. I felt a bit better, not just because the hotel avoided any losses, but also because it eased my frustration. Oh, and the hotel they tried to book is run by my family. Apparently, they were already cautious about Mark. Really? That's the first I've heard of it. Didn't you say back in school that your parents were regular office workers? Actually, they started running the hotel after I became an adult. Oh, by the way, my parents mentioned that your company had a party at our hotel recently. I was momentarily confused, but Megan's explanation made sense. I never would have guessed the hotel where we held the anniversary party was connected to you, Megan. Relieved, I felt a slight mischievous urge, so I decided to call Mark, who likely didn't know any of this yet. When Mark picked up, he immediately spoke in a mocking tone. "What's this? Are you calling to whine?" It seemed he still didn't realize his reservation had been dismissed. Feigning surprise, he added, "Oh right, we changed it to a spa resort trip for everyone. You're covering the cancellation fee, okay." Of course, I wasn't surprised. I had already expected him to say that. I just replied to Mark, shaking my head in disbelief. "There's no reservation." What? Really? After that, I could hear not just Mark's voice, but also those of other classmates who seemed to have been eavesdropping. I wondered how many people were on the other side of the speaker. Mark may have been close with them during our school days, but if they were still hanging out with him as adults, they clearly hadn't matured. Later, I learned that more than 20 classmates had been with Mark at the time. It seemed they couldn't refuse his strong-armed orders and ended up going along with his antics. Even the 3 or 4 classmates who had often hung out with him back in the day later regretted their behavior, admitting they had taken things too far. However, at that time, I didn't know any of this, so I just assumed a few of his troublemaking friends had joined in. Before they had a chance to come to their senses, I ended the call and turned off my phone. Getting back at them gave me a small sense of satisfaction. A few hours later, the people Megan had introduced arrived, which was a big help. The preserved barbecue meat, though plentiful, was mostly eaten by them. In particular, Robert Johnson from Mexico had a massive appetite and devoured several servings of barbecue. Megan joined them as well and helped finish the remaining meat. "Megan, you're not eating much. You should have more." "Robert, you're eating way too much." "I'm eating a normal amount, so stop piling meat on my plate." Although Robert was said to be in his 50s, he looked as young as Megan, and was a vibrant man. With his muscular, large build, it seemed he needed to eat a lot to maintain his physique. I never imagined I'd get to eat such delicious meat. Coming to America was totally worth it. I'm glad to hear that. It was worth introducing you to it, I replied. Robert and the others seemed to really enjoy the barbecue served at our restaurant. For a moment, I wasn't sure how things would turn out, but I was truly glad that Megan had returned to America. After the meal, Megan's acquaintances expressed interest in the meat they had eaten. Seeing this, my parents took the opportunity to explain all about the locally raised beef. While neither of them is particularly interested in the restaurant's profits, they are more than happy to support anything that helps promote the local community. The beef we serve here comes from cattle raised by local farmers. The feed is mixed with special fertilizers, which gives the meat its refined flavor. Robert and the others listened intently to my parents' explanations. If this connection could lead to the local specialties becoming more well-known, I'd be thrilled. While working in the city, I've been learning various strategies for promoting local specialties, but nothing had really clicked. I hoped this encounter could be the spark for something meaningful. As I watched the scene in front of me, Mark suddenly showed up at the restaurant. It seemed the other classmates had left. With his face red, Mark stormed in, yelling, "Matthew, you set us up. We got turned away at the hotel. What's going on?" He stopped mid-sentence when he noticed Megan in the restaurant. "Don't tell me. You knew all along my reservation would be rejected, didn't you? You kept quiet on purpose." It seemed he had somehow learned that Megan was the daughter of the hotel's owners. Her presence at my restaurant must have fueled his belief in some kind of conspiracy. "So this is the real you, huh? I bet you've always looked down on people dumber than you. You always got good grades on tests and probably thought everyone else was an idiot. That has nothing to do with this. What are you even talking about? I was so sick of being compared to you by teachers and parents. They always told me to study harder like you." I had enough of Mark's ranting and turned my back on him, but he quickly moved to block my path. "I've hated your smug face ever since we were kids." As Mark said that, he grabbed a small bottle from a nearby table. It was a bottle of barbecue sauce. Realizing what he was about to do, I flinched, but before it could hit me, Robert stepped in and caught the bottle. Standing in front of me, Robert spoke to Mark in a low voice. "You've been making a racket for a while now. It's embarrassing for a grown man." "What did you say?" "Basically, you're just jealous, aren't you? Putting others down because they have something you don't. That's not cool." Hearing those words, Mark glared at Robert, veins bulging on his forehead, but he quickly averted his eyes. He must have been intimidated by Robert's imposing physique. When Robert took a step forward, Mark flinched and backed away. "Just watch. I'll team up with the others and flood this place with bad reviews." Muttering bitterly, Mark left in a hurry. This is a small-town barbecue restaurant, not a high-end spot in the city. Most of our customers are locals, so bad reviews wouldn't affect us. Mark's actions were pointless. Letting out a sigh, I turned to Robert and apologized. "I'm sorry, Robert. That was such an embarrassing display from someone I know. Don't worry about it. You treated me to delicious barbecue, and it's some of the best I've had. Still, if this is a local business, I'll hold off on promoting it too much." Robert smiled and sought agreement from the other diners. Everyone in the restaurant nodded firmly. Seeing their reaction, Robert winked at me and added some reassuring words. "If you ever need help, just let me know. I've got your back." Afterward, Robert and his group politely thanked my parents for the meal before leaving. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. Watching their demeanor, I felt a deep sense of understanding. They truly reflected the kind of people Megan surrounds herself with. 6 months later, I returned to my hometown to attend the funeral of an elderly neighbor who had passed away. That's when I learned a surprising fact about Mark. His butcher shop had gone out of business. A new butcher shop had opened, and customers had flocked there instead. The locals had this to say: "Now that there's another butcher shop, we don't have to go to Mark's place anymore. If we don't have to deal with Mark, it's better to shop elsewhere." It seemed the new competitor had taken most of his business. When I visited the new butcher shop that had caused the stir, I found the service to be excellent. Nobody wants to be served by someone with a bad attitude. Apparently, Mark had been complaining daily, saying, "Why did my shop have to go under?" But I felt it was an inevitable outcome. After attending the funeral, I helped out at my parents' barbecue restaurant. To my surprise, the restaurant was unexpectedly busy. "Excuse me, if you don't mind me asking, why did you come to our place?" Oh, it suddenly got a lot of buzz on social media as a great hidden gem. Yeah, there's been talk about traditional crafts from this area too, so we decided to check it out. It seems someone had been promoting the area online. At the time, I didn't know who it was, but later, when I exchanged emails with Megan, the mystery was solved. It's been a while. I just wanted to share something I heard. Mind if I tell you? The email began with that and detailed what had happened after the reservation cancellation fiasco. It seems other classmates also thought what Mark did was wrong, so I went around asking them not to get involved in anything bad, and they understood. As an apology, they started promoting the area on social media. Apparently, Megan had contacted our classmates after the incident, while I had been too busy with work and left the issue unresolved. She had taken the initiative to address it. Thanks to her efforts, the lively scene before me was also her doing. Even if Mark had left bad reviews, it wouldn't have mattered much, but Megan's kindness meant a lot to me. I made sure to reply to her email with a heartfelt thank you. Thank you, Megan. You really saved me. The local area is so lively now. I want to properly thank you sometime, so could you set aside some time for that? After that, I started emailing Megan more frequently. As we talked, I discovered that we shared the same hobbies and liked the same actors in movies. Back in school, we didn't have much contact, so I never thought we'd have so much to talk about in our personal lives. It's surprising how everyone has sides you can't see on the surface. I never imagined that I'd have days where I could bond with her over shared interests. A few months later, while I was steadily handling my work, I received some news from Megan, who had become my pen pal. It was about Mark. It seems Mark couldn't find a good new job. Maybe because of that, he got involved in some criminal activity, and people in town were talking about it. Apparently, he had hit rock bottom and started doing shady part-time work. As a result, he ended up in trouble with the police. Given his past behavior, it was no surprise that his actions led to this. Unlike Megan, who had unexpected sides to her personality, Mark seemed to lack any hidden depths. A year had passed since the reservation fiasco. Another class reunion was planned, and this time, I visited the hotel Megan's family owned. During the reunion, my former classmates sincerely apologized for the cancellation incident. "I'm so sorry about that time. Mark pressured us so much that we couldn't say no and ended up going along with the prank. I really regret it. It was such a stupid thing to do." They seemed genuinely remorseful, so I told them not to worry about it. If Mark hadn't instigated it, they likely wouldn't have gotten involved in the first place. This year's class reunion was held at the hotel owned by Megan's parents. With everyone, including Megan, gathered together, we spent a peaceful time reminiscing about various nostalgic topics. It seems like our hometown is getting a lot of attention. I saw it on TV the other day. Yeah, it looks like the area is becoming more vibrant, and more young people are moving here. As someone who has been thinking about ways to promote the local area for years, there's nothing more gratifying than this. I never thought seeing new faces in my hometown would bring me so much joy. What's important now is to make sure this momentum isn't just temporary. I felt determined to figure out what I could do to contribute to that. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel anxious. I've studied so much while living in the city, but I still can't make things work on my own. Maybe I should have relied on others more. Was everything I've done pointless? When I expressed those doubts, Megan encouraged me. That's not true. This is just the beginning. If you feel like you can't do it alone, I'll help. Robert will lend a hand too. I thought of Robert, who had started calling me occasionally since the reservation incident. Always cheerful and supportive, he's someone who genuinely cares about younger folks and goes out of his way to help. I felt like I could count on him if I reached out. Thank you, Megan. I feel a bit better now. I'm glad to hear that. As Megan said, even if things hadn't worked out in the past, I could still make progress from here. With people I can rely on now, I felt confident that things would work out. Talking with her, the food I tasted seemed even better than I remembered. They must have put a lot of thought into it. It was a wonderful flavor that reflected the effort of the local community.